Hi, Carol here, and welcome to my craft room. We are going to do a two-part card, rose and candle holder, all in one card. And for part one here, I am using 140-pound cardstock, 8.5 by 11 inches, and I have a die that I'm measuring out on here to cut because I only want a partial flap going across 1/3 the section of the card, and you'll see why after. So I'm just seeing how much space I'm going to need to score here, and I have scored it at the 8.5 inch mark and halfway at the 4.25 right there. So I'm trying to figure out here, okay, I think I'm going to need to take off an inch. So I score it right here, and then I go over, I take it off right there, 1 inch off the cardstock. So it ends up being 8.5 by 10. And now I am making a 1/2 inch score with a 1/16 of an inch so that I have some room here when I am folding the card. And you will see, because it is going to hold a rose and it's going to have a candle inside, so to light up. So we will show you that as we move along. So here I am just making it so that I cut another piece of cardstock to the 4.25 inch here. So I'll have an 8.5 by 4.25 inch piece to put over top as a flap, because the card is going to be quite big. I have not seen this card anywhere on YouTube. I actually am making the whole process up as I'm going along. I had envisioned in my mind what I wanted the card to look like, and I am just going to run with it here. And I'm taking a piece of Post-it note to hold down my Good Times die, and it's going to go across that one section there. And I had to use my Big Shot Plus because I needed the width there, because I'm using the full 8.5 inches. So I'm cutting it right here, and you'll see that gives me that little flap that I want. Now I'm taking it over to my Fiskars heavy duty cutter, and I'm cutting that section off. So there I have that little piece. So I am taking the 1/2 inch that we scored, and I'm putting on some double-sided tape, and we're going to use acetate. Yes, this this is a different card, and I wanted it to hold a rose when it's sat. It's for my friend that's coming down to visit me, Janet, and I wanted it to sit up so that there was a rose inside of it, and it lit up with a candle, and you will see that in part 2. It's the most unique card I've ever done. Now here I am scoring it at the 4.25 because it's 8 inches across. I'm sorry, 8.5 inches across, so I'm scoring it in half. And you want a really crisp score, and you'll see why later. It does all come together, trust me. And I'm looking at it, and it's a quite lengthy card because I am, I have this in my mind. And so as I'm doing the card, I have to take a break and think, okay, what am I going to do next to achieve what is in my mind for this card, to achieve the end result. And I think you're going to love this card along with me. So here we go, we're putting it down, and there we are, and it's on the inside just so that I could score it. Now I put the score tape on the outside of that flap. Now I'm going to take the acetate from the inside and bring it out to the outside, so it's nice and crisp on the outside of the actual card base. And this is a very precise card. You can see that as we go along. It needs to be to end up with what I want to do with it here. So let's see how we're working it. I am making sure that I'm taking my Teflon bone folder, and this has to be very crisp. and flat, that acetate, when you do this. So now I'm pulling it on the outside, because what we're going to do here is we are going to use some StazOn inks in different colors, and I'm going to put that around like that. And this stays on. What we're going to do next, and I'm going to just let you relax and watch the process with the StazOn inks. So I'm going to take the My Favorite Things roses, and I'm flipping the acetate over, and I'm going to do the gray, the dove gray, very light at first, because this, I'm going to end up coloring the roses, and I need to see exactly where the images are, and the best way to get that, I just wanted to see, especially for the leaves, I wanted to see how well it came up on the acetate, and it came up nicely. So I'm going to start stamping with the black, and then I am going to do all of the leaves in gray, because I'm going to hand color them with alcohol inks. So join me back for the next process, and we will carry on with this card. As you could see, it's a 3-part rose set. So you're getting the first section in the red, and then the second section in the black, and then the third section in the black. So we're going on with the alcohol markers. We've taken our micro brushes, and I say we just in case you're doing this with me after you see this video. And I have stamped the leaves in the dove gray StazOn ink, so I can see exactly where they're going to be. And you can see the shadow of the leaves there to the right side of the bottom stem. And I am just going over it with the alcohol inks. I love using alcohol inks. I thought I would walk you through a lot of this card. I could have pushed it forward and did the card in one section really quickly, but I thought you would enjoy the actual process, especially using the alcohol inks here. And I'm going down the stem. I'm just going to try, and I'm using both the greens, 2 different greens, and a gold. And I want to have the green down in the stem because it is black. I didn't want it to have just black. And now I'm going over the actual stamped roses with a deeper burgundy alcohol ink with my micro brush, and it just gives it such a vintage look if you add some texture and depth, so that you don't have just one stamped color. I'm adding some deeper colors, and now I've added that gold, as you can see, and I'm going over the leaves once they've dried, just so that I have some texture look in the leaves, the actual leaves. And I think you'll really enjoy using the alcohol inks. Now see how I folded over there? Yes, that's where my roses are going to be, and the candle holder. It's going to be beautiful. So now I wanted some more roses, and I didn't want to stamp it again. And so you can use your alcohol inks to make beautiful roses. Look at them there, because they travel so well with the micro brushes. You're also going to use some blending solution, and see how I'm pushing that right into the acetate. and you have the red. I'm going back and forth with red and burgundy, and then I am pressing the blending solution down so that it kind of spurts out. Watch, see how it's doing that in there? And this is making the rose petals and the base of the rose. See how it's forming that beautiful rose right there? And you will be able to tell as you're working it yourself on the acetate. It is a real beautiful technique to use. Isn't that amazing just to watch it there? So I want to separate the rose petals. I want it to have a lot of rose petals, so I'm adding them right there. And when one dries, it overlaps. So the solution and the alcohol ink overlaps one another to make a beautiful rose. So now I'm taking the black StazOn and I'm going over top of the alcohol inks right here, and I am doing the shadow stamping so that you see the green on the sides, and then you have the black StazOn. Isn't that beautiful? And there is a method to my madness here, and you will see it later on in the card. This is just such an enjoyable card to make when you know what it's like to envision a certain type of card, and then it just comes to life. There it is right there. There's going to be a rose and a candle in the bottom. Now, I took my pokey tool here. I'm jumping all over the place, but I took my pokey tool because I wanted to have an aged vintage look in the rose. I want it to look realistic. And when you scrape the alcohol ink off, it gives you those veins that are in the rose. When you look at a rose, you see all these little intricate veins, and that's what I'm creating here. Hopefully, you see it down there? I want every rose to be unique, and it's kind of like a cracked effect. When you look at a rose close up, it has these beautiful, beautiful cracked look. That's all I can say. It's just like a leaf has its veins, so does a rose. So now I picked out my Heartfelt Creations papers, and I am going to use this one because it has a beautiful back leaf filigree going up each side of the actual cardstock. So I end up making sure that the paper is exact on each side, so the filigree is identical when you look at it. That's why I'm going back and forth with the acetate, because I don't want it to be uneven. I want the leaves that run up on the left to be identical with the filigree on the right side. So I have added, oh my, yes, tons of double-sided tape. I want to make sure that the papers are down and everything is secure, not only because I'm using 140-pound thick cardstock, but I want it just to lay really nice because there's a lot of elements going to be going on this card. So there you have it. I have put it down and each side will be matching perfectly. So I'm just going to cut it out with my scissors on each side, and we're just moving along here. Isn't that pretty? And now I need to do something with the there you go, the good time. See how it's a flap? Well, that's going to hold this card shut. And we have already built the base. I'm just showing you here. See how the roses are on the inside of that curvature? Even if you touch the card once it's open, you're never going to be able to touch it. Look at those beautiful roses. You won't be able to touch it. Now I need to make two of these good times to match. One for the inside and one for the outside of that little flap I made. So I'm putting some gold on just direct to paper on each side of the good times, and I want to shadow that as well. So I am just going to go and cut it out, and now I'm using my beacon glue to put it down. This card looks really pretty shadowed with the gold Encore ink, and I love the beacon glue because you get like I always tell you, a lot more for the buck when you buy it than glossy accents. It works very well. I love my glossy accents, but this speaking glue is very affordable. So see how you see the gold on the shadow of this, and I'm cutting it out. And this flap is what I want to fold the card, because you have that acetate round part, so it needs to be nice and firm. That's why I use the, isn't that pretty? I love the paper, and that's why I use the 140-pound cardstock. So there it says good times, because that's what Janet and I are going to have, and I made sure that that paper ran up and the pattern was identical as well. So now I am coming in on this, and we need to put, yeah, I'm just showing you how you want to run your pattern. Excuse me. So now I need the inside cut out. So I'm getting ready to put that on there. And then when you're working with acetate, you're always cleaning. And excuse me, sorry. You're always cleaning the acetate off, and alcohol wipes. That's what you want to use. I got them at the dollar store, a package of 100 for $1.25. So you want to keep those handy. And now I've put my double-sided tape on here, and we're going to use those beautiful Tim Holtz stickers over the side. Now I worked on this card. I'm going to jump on there all week. So that's why you're seeing a change of fashion from beginning to end. Yes, every day I worked about 4 hours on the card. And here what I'm doing is another illusion. I am counting up the leaves because I had to use it didn't fit 8.5 inches. So I had to cut it in half, and I didn't want you to see the halfway mark. So in order for you not to see that halfway mark, I took a ruler and my pokey tool and I scraped it every 1/2 inch. That way it looked like it was supposed to all look like it had lines in it going up the center. And so now I've put on that beautiful sticker doily on the outside. I also put it on the inside, and yes, it is a little bit tedious, but the whole process of this card turns out beautiful, and I love to work with anything intricate. I just get such pleasure out of making a card like this, and I certainly did with this card. So now I'm going to take one of the thinner pieces and run it down the side of that Tim Holtz metal sticker, and it's like a faux metal. It really looks like a real metal actually, but I didn't want you to see any of the white cardstock, so I took this silver pen, and it's a liquid pen, and it matched beautifully to the Tim Holtz sticker. And now I'm running it all the way up so that when I put that thin black sticker down there, you're not going to see, if you do see any of it, there it is there. And it's liquid on the inside. So to make sure that that sticker does not come off, I'm using double-sided tape. And I'm just flattening it out there, taking all kinds of precautions with this card because it's kind of a gift card. It's going to hold a candle on the bottom to light up the rose that's on the inside, and these roses are all going to be lit. I think you're going to really enjoy part 2 to see how this card comes to fruition. So here I'm taking the back off, and we're going to put that little piece of black to match the doily, and there'll be a doily facing in on the other side as well. And what I'm going to do just in a little bit, I am going to end up putting matching roses, 2 or 3 of them. I think there's 2 on that right side of the card. So I'm going to have you just sit back for that section, and it is going to be with embossing powders, the inks and embossing powders. So when we get to that part, you can enjoy it just to move this card along. I didn't want to make it in 3 parts, so I'm doing the best I can here. And see when I fold that over? Yes. That's why I made the flap like I did, because it has to hold that rounded acetate down. So I will be back shortly, and we're going to take a different set now. This is the My Favorite Things floral set. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. And now I'm taking my black distress ink and I'm going around all of the edges. You know I like my cards to have a lot of dimension, and there's the 2 roses that I added. And now I'm just taking this black soot and I'm putting some leaves on the stems, which is with the stems are with the distress inks as well. And I did it in the floral imagery I did in gold, encore ink, silver, and red embossing powder. Now I'm taking the silver encore ink and I am making, just drawing the outside of the leaves so it doesn't look flat. I wanted it to have a lot of texture to this, and I added the leaves all over, so it had just a pretty effect. And then I'm going to take a wipe and I'm going to just wipe it down, because this is going to be covered with acetate, remember. See how we folded that? This is the reason, because I wanted to make that round section for the roses to go in. And so it was important that it blended itself from the acetate, and it blended right over to the other flowers and as well with the leaves. So I'm just cleaning it right here with an alcohol wipe, and I'm gonna, yeah, I like to have it clean the whole time. You never want to stick a pin down your detailed fine glue container there. Just heat it up with your heat tool and it'll come back to life. So I took an ink to paper silver encore onto the black cardstock there, and I'm putting the black soot on here so it stands out when I put the Versamark on it, and I'm doing it quite a few times just so they look like roses on there. And I'm taking a little bit of the extra, this is my thick embossing powder, And now I'm going over it with the Versamark right over top, and then I'm going to heat set it. So you see the black around the edges, and you've got that silver rubbed against the black paper. Isn't it pretty? And then while it's still a little warm, I add red, I put the Gold Encore ink, and right on top of that I put red embossing powder. And then when you heat it on that warm, you get to see the background of this beautiful red when you tilted this to every side. It's so pretty in real life. Well, we're just finishing down part 1, and I think you want to join me for part 2 to see how we do the front of the card. And I am using the Silver Encore to put my leaves on here, and I grab a coffee filter right there. Yeah, I'm thinking, yikes. There you go. Don't want it on the other side, right? And I'm taking a Sharpie marker to draw the stems on these homemade roses with the black soot. Inks, distress inks, yes. And now I'm going to take my clear, isn't that pretty? My clear embossing powder, and I'm going to heat set the silver leaves. And we are just about finished. And I love the thick embossing powder on the flowers because they're raised up with the thin, that's what I'm showing you there on the leaves that are heat set. Just looks beautiful. So we will see you on part 2. Thank you everybody for joining me. I'm certainly enjoying this card. Have a blessed weekend.